Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of OMNI Athlete. You're here because you believe that you can be more, and so do we. We created this show and company to do it with you by empowering your performance with the wisdom and techniques of the world's highest achieving mind, body, and spirit competitors. Okay, so today's guest is someone who has been training the martial arts for almost 15 years and has been a partner in this venture of OMNI Athlete with me from the absolute beginning, working behind the scenes to empower this community with her love, her passion, and her connection to the synergy of mind, body, and spirit through not just martial arts, but yoga, reiki, and a host of other spiritual practices that blend the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual. And she also happens to be my wife and partner. Ms. Heidi McCoy, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So this is a special episode. First of all, because we've never been on camera together.
Nope.
So how are you feeling?
A little nervous, but it's not like we don't talk about this all the time.
Not like that at all. So where I want to start more than anything is to set the context. This is the first episode of 2019. In fact, it's going to be coming out a little bit before 2019. So we have some exciting announcements to share with the community in 2019. And one of the biggest focuses is this connection to love and to choosing love over fear as the central theme for how we approach building OMNI Athlete. So where does that land for you? Where do you go from it?
That is our central thesis for everything. And when we look at it in relation to building OMNI Athlete, that's been the guiding force. So everything that is created up to this point has been because there was a choice for love over fear. And that sounds very etheric, but when it comes down to where the rubber meets the road, it can get a little bit nitty gritty. And that's what we're really hoping to share with you a little bit today is what does that look like on the tactical level when you have to make those everyday choices for love over fear that stack up to create the vision that you want. It's not always easy, but if you do it repetitively, it becomes something bigger than that one moment.
So we have this theme that we've been working through, right? Which is this idea of choosing love over fear, with the idea being that performance, peak performance, life, the ultimate expression of who we are, and as athletes, how we perform at our best, comes from reconnecting to unconditional love. And that foundation, not in a lovey-dovey or in a warm sense on its own, that's part of it, but in this connection to the present moment and this connection to a universal consciousness and this connection to spirit, whatever we want to call it. And it has created a lot of opportunities where we've had to grow in trying to connect to that energy.
Absolutely. Right from the beginning. I mean, I don't know how much of this you want to go into, but that's where our relationship actually started, is through peak performance. And or around that moment, we had been working next to each other and training for about a year. And we had the opportunity to go meet Mr. Scott Ford, our very dear friend and mentor. And in that moment of both separately on the court, getting into that peak performance, parallel mode process state, it's like a curtain opened, a curtain lifted. It's a very spiritual is one word, but there's really no other word to describe it unless you've been in that state, that flow state. What happens is all time just stands still. You're in this timeless moment, and you feel so expanded that it's something that you want to return to. So we had that experience on the same day, and then we're able to share that afterwards. And being in as part of this community and working with Scott, we were able to learn how to repeat that. And that became a practice. It wasn't just something we used on the dojo floor, which of course we did. It's something that we started incorporating into business decisions and life decisions, and having that place to start as a foundation for our relationship was very powerful.
So let's go back to that day for a lot of reasons, and not just because it was an amazing day, but for an athlete, right? You're a lifelong athlete. You've trained in the martial arts before that day for almost 10 years. So it's not as if training and cross-training was new for you. But what happened in that day that made it just feel so different? Because we have these moments as athletes, right? We have these moments where the reason why you guys are watching this is because you've had a moment where you said, oh, there's something more here. So what was that like for you?
It was easy. And that, that for me is a big deal because I err on the side of making things really hard and focusing too much on the grit and really pushing through with effort instead of flow. So this has been a movement away from my default. And in that moment, in that day, it became easy. And I was hitting a tennis ball against a wall. I've never played tennis. And suddenly it wasn't just by coincidence that 1 or 2 were coming back to me. It was 45 in a row. It was a deep meditative state, just ball coming in and out, contact at the window and using the verbal feedback. And I'd never ever played tennis before. So, and I'm not always the most coordinated. In martial arts, I can find it by lots of training, but not naturally as graceful in everyday life. So having that coordination spontaneously in a sport that I'd never trained in was nothing short of a miracle to me. And it wasn't until after that Scott explained how and why and what was happening. But that was, to me, an unlocking. Like, if I could do that in a sport that I didn't even know, what would happen if I did that in a sport that I trained in for a long time?
So what happened?
Well, it became, in martial arts training, it became truly a deepening of the practice. So using it was one piece of it, but as an instructor, teaching other people how to get into the zone and find that perfect contact place, that was a whole nother level for me, to be able to witness someone else switch like instantly, even people who'd never trained in the martial arts, to watch that countenance change and their body rhythm change and their timing change. And afterwards to be able to ask them, all right, when you did that pad drill, what were you thinking about? Were you thinking about work? What you need to make for dinner? No, nothing. And a beautiful place of nothingness.
And we were teaching it. It wasn't like we were just teaching adults. It wasn't like we were just teaching professional athletes. We trained professional athletes. We've trained people that have been at high levels of sport before, but we were training 4-year-old kids. We were training 80-year-old women how to do this too. And we were seeing the same exact experience occur for everybody who was doing it.
Absolutely. Completely repeatable. And in even people coming into the studio for the first time, never having experienced martial arts, we were able to do the same drill that we've done at our past events and see them drop into the zone immediately, instantly. And they all would feel the same experience afterwards. Whoa, that was different. I've never hit something that fast. I've never moved that fast. Whoa, where did that come from? And that was something that we could teach people to come back to on their own. And to me, that was the biggest gift that we can share, what the energy behind this community is really built on. It's not just getting there yourself. It's about elevating that moment for other people, because if it's a repeatable process, we can train it and we can teach it.
So OMNI Athlete represents more than just a podcast, right? It represents a commitment by us as coaches. It represents a commitment by us as teachers and as a community to reconnect to love. And as athletes, we have these moments every single day, whether it's in our sport, whether it's in life, whether it's in relationships, whether it's in partnerships, whether it's in, any part of our life. We go through these opportunities where we have to choose love over fear. And that's what this is all about.
So that moment of being, we call it in the zone or on the window, is the epitome of love. Because in that moment of pure presence, there is nothing else. There's no self-judgment. There's no fear of what someone else is thinking. You are just fully present. And that is the driving force. And the other piece of this too is the entire community. It's mind, body, and spirit. We have many, many practices. We've mentioned the parallel process. That's just one of the ways that we support this feeling of love over fear, of coming to that present moment. It's like the freeway. There are many on-ramps, but it's all one path.
So the point of this podcast today is not just for us to reminisce, but it's also to share what's going to happen in 2019. But what I want to do before we do that, because guys, we are really excited. Like, there is a lot to share and a lot of energy that is coming our way in 2019 to really grow this community, which is ultimately about helping all of us achieve the level of performance and depth of connection to our sport and the people around us that we want. But before we do that, what I'm really curious to know is, it's been a crazy couple of years as we've held space for an organization that's doing a lot of different things at the same time, and it's really representing something in sport that is a shift. And that shift has created tension, it's created challenge, it's created pain, it's created amazing energy. But it's been a process. So I think we've had to actively learn how to use these principles that we want to share with the community too.
That's an understatement, yeah. So this is one of those places where we've really had to define what love means in each decision and what fear means. Because sometimes it may be uncomfortable, but that's still leaning into love. It may feel easy, but that could be fear. So trying to find the place, just like you do on the gym floor, of am I pushing into my growth edge or am I starting to tear? Am I pushing into a place that's going too far? Am I overtraining? It's very similar, that boundary. And holding space for an entity that's grown a lot, that's moving and flexing and changing and really coming into its own, means there are many, many edges of growth. And for us, personally, really finding which edges to push forward and always asking the question, how does this support us? And how does this support the us being the collective us, the we, the big we? You know, how does this elevate global consciousness as a whole? Does this move everyone forward? Because if it's not win-win, it's not going to work. Even if it is the harder decision, or if there's an easier decision, if it doesn't match up and elevate everybody, it's not for the best. And so sometimes that requires harder decisions in the short run. And we've been there, and we are so fortunate to have the mentors and the support people and the team that we do for OMNI. So I'm not sure if that answers the question, but if you wanted to get more specific.
No, it does beautifully. And what comes up for me is it's truly this active training of what we are training ourselves to do athletically, right? Like we're learning about these practices. We're spending time training. We're spending time learning how to get in the zone. We're spending time learning how to deepen our meditative states. We're learning how to connect with higher levels of consciousness, right? More expansive levels of consciousness. But as athletes, we get so narrow sometimes in how we apply it, right? We get so focused on, I can get into the zone when I'm training. I can get into the zone when I do a kata. I can get in the zone when I spar. But when I'm having a difficult conversation with somebody I care about, I don't do it. Or when I'm having a difficult conversation with a coach or a peer or a friend or a family member, I don't do it. Or when I have a difficult decision to make, I'm not in the zone as well. And we've gone through this. I mean, this is an active area of growth that we're working through. And it's incredible to see. I think the reason this comes up for me right now is I want everybody to know this is what we're all doing. Like it's the practice of being in practice.
Absolutely. The practice of being in practice. What that sparks for me is this. We've talked a lot lately about unmasking and removing armor. As athletes, especially if you've been in any type of team or coach sport, you really have to chink up that armor along the way because you've been yelled at, you've been blasted with different things, you've been under your own self-criticism. I know I have been. And those pieces really stack up. The wounds that we take on, the losses, not just the points lost or the game lost or the match lost, but the losses of even functionality. I've had multiple concussions, the loss of my short-term memory, and anyone who's dealt with concussions or sport trauma can attest to the depression that may come with it and the lifestyle that may have to change and the social pieces that you may lose. Those really build up. And so finding this place of love and recovery is a different thing that we're not taught as we train, conventionally. So finding a place in a community where you can express those things and not be faced with social stigma, and then also find the tools and practices to help you recover so that you can either maintain your support sustainably or transition to a life that is more sustainable after your sport. That gives a new meaning and a new life. And that's another way to practice that presence. So it's not just leaning into love or fear on a short minute to minute, it's the love or fear overall as part of the life. And that comes with just self-awareness. So as you mentioned, the practice of practicing, the more we practice, the more self-aware we become. And that's what's happening. I think these athletes and these teams that are becoming self-aware, that are becoming aware of the fact that you can't just train the muscles. You have to train the mind, the body, the emotion, the spirit, and create that group and heart coherence. That is only going to elevate the awareness, right? So this community is for that. And we want this vibration to bring about that sharing.
So what does love mean to you? This is the theme of this is our life, but this is also the theme of this year and the brand. Like we're in this point where we're saying, we're going to pound the drum of love because we know as athletes, love means something different to us than it does any other person on the planet. And we understand it differently. What is it? And that is different too for a woman versus a man, right? That's different from a martial artist to a football player. That's different all over the board. So what does love mean to you?
So I'm going to do the wifely thing. I'm going to say, you answer that first.
So we're kind of cheating because we talk about this all the time. But love to me is this flowing present connection with what's actually happening around us and wholeness. So the word that keeps coming up when we talk and keeps coming up when we think about what does it mean to be not just in love, but to be truly connected, either with another person, with a teammate, with a friend, with a partner, with yourself. It's wholeness. It's this feeling of I am who I am, where I am, why I am. It's all right now. I don't need anything else. I don't have, I may have holes, I may have shadow, I may have places where I don't feel strong, but it doesn't mean that I'm less. It doesn't mean that I'm unable to show up for the people around me. And I think love takes a lot of different forms from that, but the word that comes up for me is wholeness.
Wholeness. So for me, all of those things absolutely are true. I would add in the word compassion. So when I think of love, especially in this topic, in the English language, we have one word, we have love. In other languages like Italian, they have something like 100 different versions of the word love, all the different types of love. Why do we only have one? So it's a vessel that doesn't hold all of the concept that I want it to hold. But that's what we have, right? So when I think of love, I think of deep compassion. And that obviously starts on the inside. That can sound cliche, but that has been one of the biggest practices that I've embraced is finding that self-compassion. And that means looking at that wounded athlete. That means looking at the 7-year-old inside. That means taking care of the awkward 13-year-old inside. That means taking care of yesterday when you absolutely messed up everything at work. Those are all the different pieces of compassion. It also means in those moments in relationship and you're triggered and you're starting to become angry, that's a fear. Or we can say, how can I open up to love? How can I pull back a minute in this place and open a window for love that's even bigger? And that it's a lot of words, but again, that word love is a vibration, and it's the highest vibration that we can move through as a group. So love has a feeling for me. I'm very kinetic and I feel. So when we start to create that heart coherence, if you've ever been in one of the events and done this exercise with Greg Warburton, we can, or any of the other practitioners that do these, creating that space, that heart space, that coherence means you feel it and you feel your heart expand and you start to open up these energy centers. And that makes a difference, not just in relationship, but that makes a difference on the sparring mat. That makes a difference on the tennis court. Those moments when you're in that expanded state, you perform differently.
So yes. And let's think back to sparring matches you've had, right? I can think of sparring matches I've had where I was either terrified or was angry. The extrees, right? But these very low vibration emotions where I was either really focused on competing because I wanted to beat the person I was sparring. I mean, geez, how many instructors do we train with that I can remember so many times where it wasn't that, but I also remember the moments where it was just total love. It was just this openness and there was zero fear at all. And it wasn't like a reckless feeling. It wasn't a feeling of, I'm not scared to get hit. It was this feeling of, I'm just right here right now. And I feel this person across from me and we're hitting each other. We're moving, we're striking, we're locked in energy, but it's very just love. It's present. What were those matches like for you? Can you remember any?
So I can remember 3 that I can think of as examples. One was when I was early in training. I was 19, and someone had come in from a different dojo, somebody I didn't know. I knew he was a black belt. He was young and full of testosterone probably. And I was afraid. I was nervous and afraid. This wasn't the sparring partner that I'm used to in the dojo. And I think because I was in that fear mode, I didn't have the same reaction times. And I took a heel kick to the back of the head and was knocked out. So that was the first one. Very clearly, I was in a fear versus love, and it affected the outcome.
Yeah.
And then I can think of others where I was more in that zone state. I mean, us sparring, definitely that. We would practice that. Never got hurt, obviously. That would be a game changer. But sparring somebody who was, I'm trying to do the math, who's, I'm like 5'6", somebody who was 6'2", and maybe 70 pounds larger than me. His fist is the width of my face type thing. And never afraid at all, because it was a heart coherent moment. It was somebody that I trusted, and we were sparring from a place of, let's get better. I'm going to make you better. You're going to make me better. And even taking shots, but never getting hurt. And that's one of the biggest things that I've noticed training in the present and training in the zone, is that it seems anecdotally to me that the injury is less. So the third one, I was definitely in a place of anger, training with somebody that I was not in a coherence state of competing with, in the you versus me state of competing with, was angry, frustrated, and again, took a kick to the head down on the mat. So those two, one could say love saves the day, and in sparring, I think it's really true.
So there's like a cellular change when we get into the state of heart coherence. When we say love, I think a lot of people are going to hear love and they're going to say, what does that have to do with performance, right? That's great. That's great to feel love for yourself. It's great to feel compassion. It's great to feel wholeness. But these words are at times etheric, right? We don't really know what they mean. And we're now seeing research come out that love, like you said, is a literal vibration that we oscillate at, right? It changes our cellular structure. And if our cellular structure is changing in a positive sense, if we're upregulating genes, if we're doing things that allow us to be more physiologically efficient, well, of course we're going to play better. Why wouldn't we?
Absolutely. So not only recruiting your highest reaction time, but recruiting your highest levels of strength. So, if I'm competing against somebody 70 pounds larger than I need every ounce of torque that I can muster, right? So when I'm in that state of coherence and training in the zone, that is pulled not only from the ground, but from everyone. And we talk about that heart coherence, but that is recruitable as a team kinetically for your body, for performance. And no, I can't quote you all the research right now, but I've felt it.
What do you mean recruitable?
Recruitable. So you can tap into it. You're anchored in this electron field of the heart. And that goes through the rest of your body, right? We've talked about the fascia in different pieces, so we can do a whole segment on that and tie them together. And everyone has felt this in the fans, right? When there's really good energy in the crowd and the team starts feeling it, right? That's not woo-woo. Everybody will admit that. When you have a rough crowd, the team feels it as well. So those are the pieces that truly relate to that coherence. Like the more we elevate, the more we lean into love, the more it's going to ripple out. And that's bringing everyone up. That's the state we want.
So it's this multidimensional term that gets so often co-opted, right? Love gets taken and either put on a shelf somewhere or put in and it's funny because I've heard love playing football, I was in locker rooms, love was talked about all the time, but it was talked about as an abstract thing, right? It wasn't a pillar necessarily. It was talked about as, hey, I love you, man. Hey, that's great. That's awesome. We're doing this together. I love you guys. But there wasn't that real connection to this feeling is real, and it changes how we play.
And with that, there are practices. There's a difference to be like, hey, I love you, man. Or, hey, let's have a good game today. Or let's do the drills every single day that we need to do to get better. That's the way to show that I love you. And when we talk about this type of love, it doesn't just mean, hey, let's be coherent. No, there are practices behind it, and they work when you do them, just like everything else. And it's easier to do things when you're in a team. It's easier to do things with a sangha, with a group, with a community around you to do them and to hold you accountable to do them.
One more question before we dive into getting ready for 2019, because I'm really excited to share that part. Where have you felt the most growth spiritually as it relates to love? So your spiritual body, what has love meant to you there, and how has that grown?
That's a huge question. So we touched on this a little bit, and the biggest theme for me right now in this decade has been going in a circle. So if we think of each pass of our time around the sun as a lap, I want to know that when I lap, I made changes and I went up a little bit. So we're not going around the same loop every time. And training through this has helped me understand that even if I don't see it right away, that self-awareness helps find the elevation so that we start to create that spiral. And to move through that with practices, no, you don't learn them all at once. You have to keep moving through them. Spiritually, that's uncovered the most for me.
We're going to pull this thread just a little bit because it's fun. And this is the work, and it's incredible. What started you on that path?
Birth, I think. I was always very spiritual, even growing up. I didn't necessarily adhere to the religion that I was brought up in. So constantly seeking more, seeking connection, very physical. I'm a kinetic, like I mentioned, a kinetic learner, very, very physical. So when I found out that there's a place that you can practice meditation with your body, that was a game changer. When I can have a movement practice, that really opened up. Yes, we incorporate seated meditation, but moving in, it pulls together different pieces for me. And everybody has a different practice that really resonates for them, at least at that time, the strongest. And movement was that for me.
So what's incredible for us to share and to see is that movement evolves, right? And the movement practice, what it means to us. I know that since we got in the zone that first day to now, which has been 4.5 years, right? There's been such an evolution in how we see movement and how we see not just martial arts, how we see life, every single piece of it. And that evolution, I think every athlete goes through at some point. I think everyone goes through these points where they have to really, it's hard to step back. It's hard to go around the track and get out of that loop to be able to say, wow, this is different, or this is new, or this is old, but I see it in a different way, or there's all these subtleties that come, I think, to us at times as athletes because we have these experiences, right? Because we're in this state more and we feel it in a different way.
Absolutely. And then there's the consistency and repetition factor. Yeah. So as we go around the track, as we're learning new practices, it's that consistency that allows us to go around the freeway and be like, oh, I missed the exit. Okay, I'm going to notice it next time. Oh, missed the exit, but I saw it a little bit sooner. And that might be in relationship. That might be in missing a pass, or learning a new technique. Nope, I didn't get it that time. Okay, another punch, please. And then you'll get it one of those times. And that's that self-awareness of looking ahead to the next lap and saying, all right, I need to pick it up here. And that brings a different level of self-awareness for the next lap. So you can learn faster, move faster. And it brings with it more practices. So this is a really intuitive question, and it was not at all planned, but let's talk about relationship in context of sport. So this
So what came to mind for me, right, is that as athletes, we don't train relationships a ton. I mean, just in general, I don't remember ever being told this is the kind of relationship we want to build with our teammates or our friends or our fellow instructors, right? We don't do that. So how do you look at building relationships, not per se our relationship, you can use ours, but how do you look at relationships from your perspective as an athlete? Like, what do you try to build in the relationships with the people around you, with just where you are and how you train?
I think that comes as a function of being self-aware. So if you are learning to practice self-compassion and self-awareness, you are not going to tolerate being next to someone who's constantly in fear. You're going to give love and compassion, but you're also going to give them space because that's not a good vibration. So it's true. We do reflect the people around us. So who we choose to be around, the teams we choose to be on, and what we bring to that team can, yes, alter the team, but you have to know, are you ready to step up and be an emotional leader, a vibrational leader for that team and pull them up with? And do you have the support around you, the coaching, the team to pull that team up? Or do you need to say, do I need to find a team or a coach or a training partner who is more whose movement is towards the vibration that I want. No, even in our relationship, we're very frequently at the same point, but we're always asking, are we moving in the same direction? Because it's like, you grow, I grow, you grow. And it's no partnership are you ever going to move like this together. But understanding if you both have the desire to move forward, and if a team is coming together around the things that you value, if you share those values, that helps define the borders of that relationship. Because if you don't have the same values, it doesn't matter how you relate or how you define or how you talk about relationship, it's not going to grow the same way. And we've seen that happen.
So what can a coach do to help facilitate that, if not value creation, just the importance of those values for a team or a group of individuals? I mean, this maps to business, it maps to sport, it maps to family, it maps to, I mean, it's everywhere. It's all one thing. But let's take the coach. How do they do that?
We talk about this in business quite a bit, and I think of it as the pull versus push. So if, as a coach, you stake a flag and say, these are the things that I'm going to lead within my team. These are the values that matter to us. You put that there, and that will draw to it those who align with those values. And, I'm sure you may have to overcome some of the stigma that's already there based on your institution or things that might be pulling as another magnet over here to the side. But there are athletes and there are organizations on the other side who are about this type of vibrational shift and who are ready to make the leap from the competition based in fear to competition based in true love and compassion and elevation of the entire team, the individual, the team, the organization, to the larger community. Those matter. And connecting those pieces is part of what I think we hope to do with this community.
Yes. So 2019 is a really exciting year. We are getting ready to roll out I keep saying exciting, but that's the oversimplified way to say it because I don't want to share too much yet. But
just a little teaser.
What are you most looking forward to in 2019? Just with what OMNI Athlete is going to begin to stand for, what it's going to begin to represent and embody.
So 2019 brings about a lot of simplification, and we're really excited to open the community with depth and to provide tools that people have been asking for. This will get very specific later, but down to the tactical level, I'm really excited to connect with people at that point. For those of you that I've connected with at events, I'm much more of an in-person trainer, and that's what I'm excited about, the interaction one-on-one and in small groups with the community, as well as upcoming events.
That's what I'm excited for too. I'm very excited to see what happens to the organization as we rally around love. So this is a exciting and point of tension, right? Like we're at a point as an organization where we have to grow to deliver on the promises we've made to this community. We have to grow in what we do and how we do it and why we do it. Everything has to grow. And that's nerve-wracking for us. That's tension. That's a lot of growth opportunity. And I'm really excited to see how that manifests because there's something that feels so genuinely right with connecting to love, like finding a way to thread that through everything we do and finding that way to say, as an athlete, you can learn to love yourself as much as you love your sport. And if we can deliver on that, the impact we hope to have for athletes just lights me on fire. So I'm really excited about that too.
I know it does. I see that every day. The piece that we're looking forward to in 2019 is opening up. How can we serve? How can we serve even more? And that's the way that we're leaning into love. How can we find ways to serve this community more specifically and serve more people in that community? And that's not something we can do alone. We've had that in the past, tried to hold too much and tried to do too much on our own. And we're really looking forward to shedding that fear and opening up to a lot of help.
And that's happening right here, like in this moment, right? So one of the things that I would love to see in 2019, and we have already hinted at a little bit, is to pull back the veil more on not just being an OMNI athlete, right? But what it takes to live these principles, because there's just, it's not easy. And love gets this connotation that it's easy. Oh, okay, if it's love, whatever that means. If I love my sport, if I love my partner, if I love my business, if I love my training, whatever the case is, if I love my teammates, it's going to be easy. No, it's not easy. And I'm excited to share, like we're doing right now, more of what goes on behind the scenes so people understand this commitment to love doesn't mean you're saying, I want the easy path. In fact, a lot of times it means you're taking the harder road. You're taking the road that makes the biggest difference in your soul, in your life, in your ability to perform your best. But
might make zero sense to
right
the
now.
Rest of your world, your friends, your community.
Yeah.
So those are the pieces I'm just thinking specifically, as an athlete, you're making choices that are different from your peers. If you're an OMNI athlete, chances are your teammates might be wondering, what the heck are you doing? Why are you training like this? Why are you wearing that meditative headband? Why are you doing these practices? But then as your performance starts to change, they might be asking you in a different way how and where you learn that. But at the same time, you need a community to share that and a place to admit, hey, I've been doing this. It's really hard. It really kind of just is rough beating up against this. Am I doing the right thing? We all have down days training. And if you go to somebody who's still training in fear-based, they're going to be like, well, just stop doing that. And having peers to train with you to help push you to where you want to go and to help raise that vibration matters. And that is the space that we're personally invested in holding, is that platform where we can connect to talk about what matters to us.
Because we've got these teachers, right? The most incredible part.
So in depth.
I mean, 2019, we're going to be releasing courses. We're going to be releasing trainings. We're going to be releasing the opportunity for somebody who's been involved with this community, worked with a teacher who they really got connected with or found totally transformational in their training, a chance to dive deeper. And the depth of this community is incredible.
And not only that, but the teachers.
Yeah.
So a place for teachers to connect with those seeking exactly what they are offering and what they are doing as part of this, OMNI tribe.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
It's enough teasers.
Said too much. Okay, so here's how we're going to finish. We're going to do 3 things that you're grateful for in 2018.
You first.
Okay, so first and foremost, I'm incredibly grateful to you, and I'm grateful to our family for having supported this process. It has not been easy by any means, and I'm very grateful for that. I'm grateful to the OMNI Athlete community and to the SEC community that's become one and the same. And I'm grateful for every single teacher, person, member of the community, anybody who has written us a review, this has been one of the most challenging and transformational years of my life and of the last couple of years. And I am grateful for serendipity, because it feels like more than anything this year has had more serendipity, more moments that we could just never have planned, more conversations, people, opportunities that we just never could have anticipated. And I'm grateful for that because it spills over, and I believe that comes from love.
Absolutely. It's hard to follow that. I should have gone first. So I would echo all of those. And
you can't say ditto.
No. I would like to add, I'm grateful for being able to bear witness to the transformation that you've gone through and that you've taken the organization through, walked through, and for your commitment to hold this and our family at the same time. And I'm not going to cry. With that, don't you do it. I'm also grateful to our little ones. Who aren't so little and are helping in every way they can, from doodling out logo designs to t-shirt designs to how we should do everything. But they're a big part of this too. And
they're athletes.
They are little mini athletes. So they help a lot. And they also give us another reason why this is important, because watching them go through early team sports is just another reminder of why we want a different kind of coaching for them and for those coming up in this next generation. I'm very grateful for all of our mentors and all of the OMNI team, both professionally and just personally. They've helped us grow. And the community at large. I'm grateful that we have a space and a time. I'm grateful for the timing of this, because this is the precipice of a big shift. And with all shifts that shake things up, comes a little tumultuous time. So the more of us that are ready to shift, the better.
Okay, so before I ask my final question, where can these guys go to connect with you online?
You can find me inside of the OMNI network.
Mm-hmm. What does it mean to you to be an OMNI athlete?
To me, it means continually finding that presence, stripping off whatever it takes to get into that present moment, threading through past and future, bringing that loop together.
Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having a show.
Oh gosh, guys, so it would be incredibly accurate for me to say that you should go dive into Heidi's world, and it would not be one bit unbiased, but that doesn't matter. Heidi is one of the reasons that this community is here. She's one of the reasons, if not the reason, that we are as a community and as a company where we are today, and primed to deliver on our promise to you, which is to show you that you can love yourself as much as you love your sport, and that when you do, your entire world changes. You perform better and you just transform as an athlete and as a person. So if you are interested at all in understanding what it means to experience this kind of love, if you're interested in learning what it means to actually fight and experience that, like how many people understand the idea that when you fight and have love at the same time, something transcendent happens. Dive deep into her world. And until next time, thank you for watching this episode of OMNI Athlete, for being part of this community. And we're excited to deliver even more energy and commitment in 2019. Hey, what is up, guys? Thank you for watching another episode of OMNI Athlete. Please, please, please go like and subscribe to our podcast. That is our goal right now, is just to build this community as big as we possibly can. And we need your help to do it. So like and subscribe, share our content, guys. If this content adds any value to your world, that helps you perform, connect, go deeper, go wider, whatever it is that it does for you, if it provides value, all we ask is that you share our content and help grow this community. We can't accomplish our goal of elevating global consciousness through sport without you. You are an integral part of this mission and this purpose, and we need your help. So please go like, subscribe, and share our content, and continue to help us build and grow this community that is truly motivated to not just elevate consciousness, but elevate and shift the very culture of sport, so that we can truly experience the athletic experience in a brand new and energizing way for so many people, guys. So thank you, and please like and subscribe. Until next time.